Okay, fine. So let me share my screen. I hope you are able to see my screen. Chinna, are you able to see?
Yes, Mahesh.
Okay. So in the last session, what we have discussed about is Cucumber framework, right? So I'm just recapping what we have discussed in the last session. So in order to create a framework using Cucumber, first of all, we have to add dependencies in a Maven project. So what are the different types of dependencies that we require is one is a JUnit dependency and Cucumber Java dependency, and then Cucumber JUnit dependency. This is Selenium Java dependency, and then this is a new dependency that I added as part of the latest changes that we made in this project. So this is called Cucumber Pico container, which is required to build a framework based on dependency injection. So dependency injection in Java, it is a concept of Java. So whatever the dependencies that you required at runtime, you have to create object for those classes. So this particular library will takes care of that particular dependency injection concept. So I'll explain where exactly we are using that concept in our project. So this is about what are the different dependencies that we require in order to create a Cucumber project. So once we added all these dependencies in pom.xml file, and then we have to create a folder called features. So in this feature, we have to create a feature file. For example, based on your requirement, you will have some requirements, right? So what exactly you will be performing after the application is developed. So you have to write what actions user is performing on that particular page and what is the expected outcome. So here we are taking the successful login scenario, right? So user is on login page and he enters valid credentials and click on sign in button. He should be successfully sees his home page after the successful login is completed. So this is one of the scenario. It is a plain English language text. It is called Jerkin language. Jerkin has given when and then statements where you have to write statements in plain English language. Its implementation has to be implemented under steps directory, right? And in the last session, we also discussed about we have to write this feature file, and after writing the feature file, we have to implement each step. For example, here user is on home, user is on login page. For this particular statement, we should have a step definition under steps folder. So this is the step definition, and this particular step definition should write under steps directory. So I have added all these directories. So this is called framework design. If someone asks you to, are you able to create a framework from scratch, this is what we have to do. Like for example, we don't know anything, like we don't have any project which is already there, right? We are creating a new project and a Cucumber. So this is the folder structure. The main thing is features folder, where we will write all the features, all the requirements in a Gherkin language, and put all the feature files under this feature directory. So after adding the feature file, each and every statement that we add in the feature file should have a dependence step definition linked to that particular statement in the feature file. So all those step definitions we have to write under SRC test Java, and under Java we have multiple folders. We have to create multiple folders. So why we are creating multiple folders? Because earlier, if you see, we only have this login steps.java file. So if you see this file, it will be, it is, it does the job, but not in an efficient manner. So in order to do things in efficient manner, we have to follow a structured manner. So for example, if you are if you are seeing this file, I just commented. So driver.get, you are using the all the default commands you are using here. You are not using any reusable functionality here, right? So, and you also, for example, I have for example, I have two scenarios where I have to enter email and password values to the input fields. For example, this is a happy path scenario. I'm directly getting the X path or ID of that particular element and sending the whatever the value that I wish here. But if I wanted to do the same operation for example, five different scenarios, I have to write 10 lines of code, right? So instead of that, we will be implementing a reusable functionality, reusable methods. So reusable methods is nothing but if you go to login steps. So so this is the steps, and each step will be interacted. Each step would have some actions to be performed, right? So all those actions we have to put under actions directory. So in this action directory, so there are some common actions. These common actions are nothing but these are the actions that are common across all different application, whatever the application you are testing. So these common actions would be common. You don't have to change anything. For example, here what we are doing, go to URL. The go to URL is nothing but we can pass URL to this method. Whatever the URL that we pass to this method, it will go to the it opens that particular application URL and get current page URL, get current page title. These are common across whatever the application that you are testing. For example, right now we are using Let's Code 10, right? Instead of that, you can use some other application like we have banking project, right? So you can use that particular application URL. Just you can use this this method. Only thing you have to change is you have to pass the URL which you wanted to test. So I'll show you where exactly that we are calling this method. So in login steps, go to login steps. So let me go to the feature file first. So this is our first scenario. For example, user is in login page for let's code it dot in. For example, if you wanted to write the same functionality for some other application, you can create some other feature file like banking login dot feature file here. After you add that particular feature file, you can write the statements like this: user is in login page of banking application, and you have to implement that particular for example, let me write and show you so that it will be easy for you. File, I'm just creating banking login dot feature. So I just added another feature file, which this particular feature file has all the scenarios that are related to banking login. Okay. So here first thing what we have to do is feature what this feature is: login functionality of bank application and scenario successful login, and given statement given user is on bank login page when user enters valid details, then he is on home page. So this is the new scenario. So after writing this scenario, we have to implement step definition for all of these files, right? So you can just directly click on this bulb symbol here, create step definition. So since this is related to login functionality, you can either create a new login steps file, or you can add your step definitions in the existing login steps. Okay. So once you add this, you have to create a method. So this is just a step definition. Internally, you have to write the code for that particular operation that you wanted to perform. For example, here login actions dot login into bank app. And in order to log in, we need two credentials. One is username and password, right? So for let's just I'm taking for example purpose, I'm just giving two values here: test at email.com some password 123. So this is the functionality that I have to implement. So if you see here, there is a red font, right? Because this particular method is not implemented. We have to implement this method. So if you hover on this particular thing, you can see create method under login actions. So if you click it, it will automatically create a signature for that particular method in under login actions class. See, it automatically creates a method definition along with whatever the parameter that it requires. So here you can change this change as well, like just password. Okay. And here you have to, once you added this particular method, what action you have to pass? One is you have to enter username or email ID, and you have to enter password, and you have to click on login or submit button or login button, right? These three lines you have to write here. But before that, you have to get the ID or XPath of that particular login. So for example, if you see here, whatever the elements on that particular page, for example, login page, how many fields we have? Let's go practice. Okay. So in this particular page, what exactly we are doing? We are entering email address, password, and login button. Similarly, can anyone share the banking application login, bank app login URL? Anyone have? You are testing it manually, right? Does anyone have that?
Like Guru 99?
Yeah. Guru 99 banking app demo, right? This one only, right? I think it is not the one. This is not the one which you are testing, correct?
So this one only.
This one only?
This one, this one only. You have to
Okay.
enter below.
Okay. This is my user ID. And okay. I'll just take. Agile project, bank project. Okay. So this is our bank application where we have one, two, three, four main. I'll just take this URL. If I directly open, okay, directly it opens this bank application login, right? So we will take the URL of this. So in our first statement, what is our first statement in the newly added feature file? User is on bank login page. So what we have to do is, here we are not, this is not the correct statement here. Here we have to use go to URL statement. So go to URL is under common actions. You can directly copy this line. So whatever the common action that we can perform on a web page, all are comes under common actions. And go to URL. You just have to update the URL which you wanted to launch. I'm just replacing the existing URL here. So this is Guru 99, the bank application URL, right? So with this statement, what happens? It will directly launches this particular URL. Earlier, if you remember, we have to create a driver instance, and then we have to write a code like driver.get. Instead of doing that, we have already added that particular code inside this method. Only thing is we have to just pass the URL which you wanted to. So this is the advantage of using a framework, in how many feature files, if you have different applications to test, you can just use this particular statement. That's it. It will opens that particular application before you start executing your test scenario. So this is the first statement. So after that, what we have to do is we have to perform a login action, right? Go to the banking login dot feature and create step definition for this statement as well. Login steps. Here you can use login action because we already had added a method for that, right? Bank app login functionality. So login into bank app. This is the method that we have added recently. And here we have to pass two variables. One is username and then password, right? So I just have this. This is the user ID. I'll just pass this user ID and then password. And if you go to the implementation of this particular method, you have to write actual code. If you remember, we have to get the ID and we have to perform send keys operation on that particular identifier and then click on login button. So all those three actions should be implemented in this particular method. Go to this method. So here, and we have something called elements folder. So in this element, what we are doing is we will create element for each and every identifier that is displayed on the web page like this. So so that once you add this particular identifiers in this particular login elements class, you can use wherever you want. You don't have to write that particular statements n number of times. For example, if you have 100 scenarios where it requires to find an element and input something into that. So instead of doing that, you just declare once, use thousands or 100 times you can use the same declared variable. That's what we are doing here. So this is called a page object model. So in page object model with Cucumber, what we are doing is we will create a separate Java class for each and every web page that is displayed on a Chrome browser. For example, in this bank application, this is let's assume this is the login screen. So for each login screen, we will have a different Java class. I'll just create one more Java class, banking login elements. So we already have login elements. This is for other website, which is letscodeit.com. So what we can do is we can just copy the same file instead of rewriting everything. It will take time, right? So I'm just copying this, or you can just copy the main lines inside this. First input ID that we have here is user ID. So declare the variable as input for user ID. And you have to find the ID of that particular input, right? Earlier it was email. Let's see what it is here. Is it not allowing? Right click here. Yeah. So if you see type text name UID, you can use name here since name equal to UID. Let me check whether it is having only one match here. Three matches. UID. Okay. Those are something else. So you can directly use UID as a name. It's not ID. So you have to update this as name, and the name of that particular input field is UID. And similarly, you have to find identifier for password. This is also name. Password input for. And finally, what we are doing, we are clicking on login button. Let's take the ID or whatever it is having. So this is also having name as button login. Okay. So name can be same like login button. It is up for the same, right? So once you add all the different identifiers that you require to perform some action, you have to initialize those elements with with the help of, this is called a constructor. It is also Java concept. What happens when you call this particular class, by default this method will invoked, and it will initializes the variables whatever we have added here. This is called page factory. This at the rate find by annotation is comes with the help of page factory design pattern. So what happens when you invoke this particular class, by default all these variables will gets initialized. So this is if you write any new page, you have to write in a similar fashion. For example, once you log in, you can see a home page, right? So you have to create a new separate class under elements folder, and then whatever the elements that you see on that particular page, you have to create identifiers like this. And this method is common for each and every class. Only thing is, in Java, the constructor name should matches with the class name. So you have to make sure that these two are same. So now we have declared the identifier. Now we can perform some action on it, right? So now let's go back to our feature file. Now we have to go to user enters valid details, login into bank app. So here, whatever the actions that we wanted to perform are under those elements are under this particular file, right? So you have to create a object for this particular class, banking underscore login underscore elements. So go here, you have to create an object for that, banking login elements. This is the class name that that we just added, and then create a variable for that. So here we just added a variable, but you have to initialize that, right? So in order to initialize that, you have to do like this. New banking login elements. So what here we are doing is we are creating an object for this particular class, so that as we discussed, whenever you call this method, all the elements that are declared in this particular class will be initialized, so that you can directly use the elements that are declared in this particular object or class. So dot, first thing what we have is input for user ID dot send keys. So in send keys, wherever from where we are invoking this method, we have to pass a value for that particular user ID. Here it is email, right? Instead of doing that, let me change that name so that it will be reflected everywhere. Go to feature file, login into bank app. Here it is user ID and password. I'm just passing user ID, then banking login elements dot input for password dot send keys password. And finally, what we have to do is we have to click on login button, right? Dot login button dot click. That's it. And then finally, we have to implement one more method, one more step. After entering username, password, and click on sign in button, we have to verify he is on his home page, right? And this particular statement is also not implemented yet. So that you have to create a step definition for that. Click create step definition. Use the existing or new what your wish it is. So we already have home page steps, so you can directly use this. And then here we have to verify whether user is on home page or not, right? So you can create a new method for that. Home page action verify user is on home page. Home page. Earlier method is verifies it for let's code it that. Now we are adding for new site, right? I'm just adding that particular thing at the end so that it will be easy to, so that we won't get confused. So this method will verify whether user is on home page or not once he entered valid credentials. So we have to implement this particular method as well. Hover on it. It will give you a suggestion. Create method under home page actions. So this is the method. So first of all, you have to manually log in so that you will see what exactly your home page looks like. User ID. Click login. So this is the home page of the our bank, right? For example, once user is successfully login, I wanted to verify whether the new manager icon or manager link is visible or not. So for that, here this is the link for that. So all these links will be visible only when user is successfully logged in, right? So our verification to know whether user is successfully logged in or no, based on whether these links are visible or not once user clicks on sign in button. So what we can do is we can write an XPath for this because it doesn't have any ID name or nothing is there for this particular hyperlink, right? So you have to write an XPath. So in order to write an XPath, this is the syntax. Control F so that you will see a search bar like this. So first syntax is you have to give two slashes and then what is the tag name? Anchor tag, right? So you have to pass A. So with A, there are multiple, like around 55 matches are there. That means in this particular web page, we have total 55 hyperlinks. So under that, we only need the hyperlink for manager, right? So just double click, just give square bracket, dot is equals to manager. See. Now this particular XPath is identifying only one element. If you see one of one, that means we can use this particular XPath. And this is XPath. So you have to add that particular XPath under elements, right? So we already have home page elements. So only thing is you have to add this particular XPath here. Find by XPath equals to. So whatever the XPath that we identified for manager hyperlink. This is the XPath that we identified. And then you have to declare a variable for this public web element and then manager hyperlink. Guys, give me a 1 minute. I'll just getting a call. Okay, sorry for the disturbance. So here what we are doing is we just created a variable for the hyperlink, right? So now we can directly use this particular statement, particular variable with the help of home page elements. Home page action. Go to home page actions. Here we are doing assertion, right? Whether this particular link is visible or not. In condition, manager link is not visible after login. So here what we are doing is once user is logged in, we are verifying this manager hyperlink is displayed or not. So if it is displayed, our login is successful. If it is not, this particular statement will fail the test case because this particular element is not visible after user is logged in. So before that, we'll add just a thread.sleep so that we'll give enough time to log in to complete. Okay. So now go to banking login feature. So we have implemented all these three step definitions for each and every statement that we have added. Okay. Now we can also give a tag for this particular scenario. For example, bank login. Okay. If you remember earlier, we used to identify each scenario with some tag so that we can pass this particular tag in test runner file so that only this particular test, whatever the test that you wanted to execute, only those tests will execute. So take this tag and go to test runner. You just have to update the tag name. Okay. So what happens is now this Cucumber framework identifies whatever the scenarios that are associated with this tag will execute. Let me just run this. Done, right? So it enters username, password, and click on login button. After that, it verifies whether the user is on a home page. So any questions so far?
No worries.
Okay. So this is how you have to write your test cases for all the test cases manually, whatever you are executing. So I'm just committing all my changes here. I'll just commit. So this is the same process that you have to follow when you try to commit. So because all these files that I have added recently, right? So first of all, I'm doing a commit here. So when you click on commit, whatever the changes that you added, see there are 16 files I added, all are now committed. Once you commit, you have to pull the changes. You go to the project here, select Git, you can see option pull here. So we just committed our changes, and when you do the pull operation here, it will get all the latest changes from the server. Means if somebody has made some changes in their I mean in the same repo, for example, in the same repository, there are three people are working, and you made your changes and you committed them, and you have to get the changes made by other two people also, right? So in order to do that, you have to do this pull action. When you do pull, it will get the latest changes from the server. Mhm. You can see some comment here. See, this pull operation has performed successfully. Before that, it added all these files. Now pull is successful. Now you have to push the changes. Push. So with this push, what we are doing is we are pushing all my changes. Done. Done means all my changes are available in Git server. So now go to H&SS. Git. Okay, thank you. So I'm just sharing my screen. So this is my profile where I have multiple repositories. So this is the repository that we are currently working on, Cucumber demo. See, 4 minutes ago, all our changes are pushed. So now going forward, you can use the same repository, but only thing is I have to mark all of you as a collaborators. Chinna, you have to accept your invitation for this particular repository so that you can make changes in the same repository.
Okay, Mahesh.
So I'll add all other people later. So what you have to do is, oh, okay, you have to accept this invite. So once you accept this invite, I'll just give you the URL of this as well in the chart.
It came before accepting only. Right.
Yeah, it came, but what happens is you cannot commit your changes in the repository if you don't have collaborator access.
Where should I accept in the mail?
Yeah, in hnssglobal.com.
Okay, Mahesh.
Okay, so once you accept this invite, now whatever the changes I have, you would be having the same changes. Okay, so for example, we have different modules. In manual test cases, you guys are taking, each person is working on some new module, right? In a similar fashion, you have to create a branch. This is a Git concept. Okay, when you click here, you can see master here, right? Select a new branch. For example, I'll just give my name, Mahesh branch. I'm just creating a new branch. So now whatever the changes that I made will be available only in this branch. Once you are sure your changes are perfect, you wanted to push your changes into Git, then you have to raise a pull request. For example, I'll just create one more dummy file. Okay, file. For example, I'll just give manager dot okay, manager dot feature in bank app. Okay, so this is a new feature that I am adding. Add feature manager functionality. Some scenario, example scenario given. I'm a manager of bank. When I add new customer, then it should create login details for new customer. So this is one change that I made. So I'll just try to commit these changes. See, I just added this particular file. This is showing under changes. Added manager feature file. Commit. And go to project and pull from master. Git pull. Here you choose master always. Pull. Once the pull process is completed, now you can push. So when you push your changes would be pushing to the your branch, that is Mahesh branch. Ignore about this code analysis. See, pushing is completed, but all my changes in under Mahesh branch. So now if you go to the Git, select the project, you can see my branch here. This is a master branch is common for everyone, but you have to create a new branch for each and every collaborator. See here, Mahesh branch is available. So once I'm sure my changes are perfect and they are working fine, we have to create a pull request. So you can see an option, you can compare and pull request. You just add your comments, create pull request. So this is the pull request. You have to share this with the reviewer. In real time industry, there would be leads and managers, right? So what happens is if you are joining as a fresher or in 2 to 3 years experience guy, so they'll ask you to create a branch and make your changes in that branch. Once your changes are done, you have to create a pull request like how I did like. And once you create a pull request, you have to ask them to review. So you have to add someone here to review your changes so that they will review. If everything is fine, then they will merge your changes with the master. For example, I'm adding Chinna H&SS as a reviewer. Okay. So you can see your name. So once Sinha reviews my changes, he will click on merge pull request so that my changes will be merged with the master branch. So this is the same process that you guys have to follow when you are creating your feature files. So any questions so far? This is so I think everyone is working on your manual test cases, right? So try to do same. I mean, whatever the scenario that you are trying to test manually, try to do the same in with the help of this repository. So if you are facing any questions, you can reach out to me. I'm available on WhatsApp. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay then. Okay, thanks. I'm done with today's session. So in the next session, I wanted to see everyone should create some branches and make changes in this particular repository. and I wanted to see whether you are able to modify or you are able to use this framework. I wanted to see from each and every one of you. Okay,
Mahesh.
thank you. Mohita, I'm done. You can upload this recording in your YouTube.
Thank you, Mahesh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.